This is Vallisa from Like Radio, and welcome to all our listeners. Now, on the show today, we are going to be discussing the Voter ID campaign led by Greater London Authority, GLA. This campaign is about helping and supporting Londoners to access their democratic rights to vote in elections. Did you know that 1 in 4 Londoners, that's 24%, are unaware of new requirements for photo ID to vote in person? London has one of the lowest voter registration rates in England, with a number of under-registered communities. 5% of Londoners are at risk of losing their democratic voice as they might not have any suitable ID, with underrepresented communities most likely to be disenfranchised. 67% of Asian Londoners report being aware overall of the photo voter ID requirement, while others and mixed ethnic group Londoners report being the least likely to hold an accepted form of voter ID. Today, we are joined by representatives from the GLA and campaign supporters who are helping Londoners to understand the impact of voting changes. This will ensure that eligible Londoners register to vote, as well as raise awareness that they will need an accepted photo ID to vote in person as part of your democratic right to vote. So first, I'd like to welcome Dr Elisabeth Pop. Elisabeth is a GLA Principal Officer for the Active Citizenship and Democratic Participation, so coordinates civic and democratic participation at London City Hall and across London. Hi, Elisabeth.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Can you tell us about the GLA's Voter ID campaign?
So I'm really proud to say that the Greater London Authority, also known as London City Hall, has launched an unprecedented public awareness campaign to make sure that all under-registered and underrepresented Londoners have access to their democratic rights. This is needed because we now have a new piece of legislation. It's called the Elections Act 2022, and for the first time introduces an accepted form of voter ID, which every Londoner who votes in person at the polling station will need to present in order to be able to vote. It's also important that we make sure every single Londoner is aware, so we have joined forces with all the borough electoral services, with a broad civil society coalition of over 200 partners, because London already has some of the lowest voter registration rates. So it's upon every single one of us to spread the word and make sure Londoners can access their rights.
And can all Londoners register to vote?
That is a really good question. So the law at the moment says that if you are a British national or Commonwealth national or a EU national, you can register and vote. So that means that most Londoners can, but unfortunately at the moment, not all of them.
And do you have to be 18 to register to vote?
No, you have to be 18 to be able to vote on the day of the election, but in fact, you can register from the age of 16. And I really want young Londoners to know that, because research overwhelmingly shows the sooner you register to vote and you're involved in civic and democratic life, the more likely you are to keep participating throughout your life. So remember, register at 16 and make sure you vote at 18.
Now, you did mention that you now need photo ID to vote in person. What forms of photo ID will be accepted?
There is indeed a list, so you need to have one of these forms of accepted voter ID. So if you have a British, Commonwealth or EU passport, you can use one of those. Equally, if you have a British or EU driving license, if you have an Oyster 60 Plus photo card, a Freedom Pass, or even a blue badge, all those are accepted forms of ID. And remember, you only need one, but it needs to be the original form. You cannot bring with you to the polling station a photocopy or an image on your phone. And don't worry, if you don't have any of these forms of ID, and some Londoners don't, you can apply for a free voter authority certificate. That's a free form of ID that you can apply online. It takes a few minutes, and all you need is digital picture of yourself, of course, your name and your address. It will come at home and you can use it on election day.
And can you please talk to our listeners through the steps that they need to vote?
Great. My favorite question, because we can go step by step and it's really easy to remember. So first and foremost, make sure you're eligible to vote and you're registered at your current address. It takes a few minutes, and once you're registered, then of course you can vote. Second, please remember to check you have an accepted form of photo ID. If you don't worry, you can apply for a free voter authority certificate. And third, your electoral services in your borough council will send you home a polling card. It's usually a size of an A5. It tells you when is the date of the election. And of course, the next election in London are on 2nd of May, Mayor of London and London Assembly elections. But we will also have at some point this year a general election. So make sure you check on your polling card. When is the day of the election? What is the address of your polling station? And don't forget to bring that voter ID.
Now, after going through those steps, what happens if I go to the polling station without the accepted photo ID?
Oh, I hope that's not the case. I really hope by speaking to your listeners, we're on TV, on billboards, in community centers. I really hope that every Londoner gets to hear. But if you don't get to hear about it and you show up on election day at the polling station and you don't have a form of ID, it's not the end of the world. Electoral services staff will just ask you to pop home. Hopefully you will have it there if you forgot about it, and you can still bring it to the polling station before they close at 10 p.m. So as long as you bring it back, you will still be issued with a ballot paper to be able to vote.
And is there a deadline to register to vote or apply for the postal and proxy voting?
There are indeed deadlines, but my ask is please do it now. Don't leave it for next week or next month, because the sooner you do it, the more likely you are to have, a quick turnaround and just be done with it. But if you want to know the deadlines, so the deadline to register to vote is midnight on 16th of April. Now, not all of us might be able to vote in person on election day, so you can apply for a postal vote, which means that your ballot paper will be sent by post to your home. The deadline for a postal vote is 17th of April, or you might decide you want to send someone to vote on your behalf, and that's called proxy voting. And the deadline to register for a proxy vote is 24th of April.
Now, the majority of our listeners are, of course, from South Asian backgrounds. So what if they wear a veil, head covering, or want more privacy at the polling station?
Really good question. So one of the things that this legislation improves is definitely privacy in a polling station. So you will have the option, if you are asked to confirm your ID, for example, if a member of the polling staff can't really see exactly the resemblance with the picture in the ID that you bring, you can ask for your identity to be checked in privacy behind privacy screens. You can even ask for a female member of staff to come with you and to check your identity. And don't worry, you should have a mirror in that privacy booth, so you can arrange your appearance and you can go back into the polling station in a comfortable manner. It's for everyone to have access to that. So no matter the reason, you have the right to ask for a privacy screen.
So you've given us so much information already, but where can they go if they want to find out more information about the photo ID and campaign?
Great. So this is the opportunity for me to say that I'm really proud that we have a GLA Democracy Hub, where we've created a plethora of resources co-designed with communities, including Asian Londoners. We in fact have on at the hub, which you can find at www.registertovote.london, resources in 15 community languages, from Urdu to Punjabi to Bangla and so much more. We also have resources in British Sign Language, in easy read, posters, videos, animations, and even political literacy courses that you can use in any education setting. So I really encourage you to visit www.registertovote.london.
Thank you so much. And one final question. We know that some people are not keen on sharing their personal information. So what would you say to these people, and how can they trust that their personal information will be kept safe if they do apply for the voter authority certificate?
Great question. So we said that your privacy is improved at a polling station, but your security when you apply to register to vote also is. So when you register to vote, you have the option to opt out of the open register. So that means that no third party, no marketing agency, no one can have access to your name and your address. Only electoral services staff will be able to know your name and address, because they need to send you election information like the polling card. But we also know that unfortunately there are levels of domestic violence in London. So I want victims of domestic violence, especially women and girls, to know that you can still register and vote. And you can do so by applying for anonymous voter registration. You just fill in of your form and all your details are protected. And that's important, in fact, for all Londoners. Your voice matters, and we really want to make sure you get heard. So act on your rights, spread the word, and make sure you vote, because no vote, no voice.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to be joined by Zamiha Desai. Now, she's the founder of Recommendation and Professional Asian, two of the largest South Asian social platforms with a combined followership of 160,000 plus. Zamiha champions small businesses and entrepreneurs, as well as empowering women within the South Asian community. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Vallisa.
You're welcome. Now, why are you supporting the GLA Voter ID awareness campaign?
Because voting is one of those things that we have a right to do, completely included in this whole process of defining our future, our representatives. So obviously it's like a big privilege and a must actually to be able to vote.
And a number of our listeners wonder why bother voting, as nothing ever seems to change. What are the benefits of voting and registering to vote?
Well, if nothing changes about our behavior, then nothing is going to change about other behavior. We have the opportunity to choose our representatives and to impact kind of our civil rights. So, education, healthcare, housing, justice, this all impacts it. And as a representative, with professional Asian and small businesses, things like being on the electoral register can actually improve your credit score. So there's lots of advantages. Plus, we get to, put our voice in and have an opinion, and we matter. If there's no vote, no voice, and we have been given the privilege to use our voice. If you look around the world, not everybody can have democracy. Not everybody can vote. Not everybody has that right. This is not a right that we even have to fight for.
Brilliant. Well, everything you said resonates with our listeners. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to both our guests, Dr. Elisabeth Pop and Zamiha Desai. Now, remember, we can all play a role in spreading the word and taking action, so no eligible Londoner is left without a voice or a vote. So for more information, remember to visit the GLA Democracy Hub, which is registertovote.london, and we'll pop that in the comments below as well. Thank you.